particularly interested, given his expertise, he's particularly interested in edtech. He's also a YouTuber. So in the midway during the session, we'll drop a link to his YouTube channel too, where you can go and subscribe and check all his videos regarding product managers. So all the aspiring product managers here, if you want to know that one guy who will guide you through the journey, this is the guy, right? So I think that is Shravan Tickoo in brief. That is only a portion of it. But here you go, Shravan. It's your stage from now on.
Sure, yeah, amazing guys. First of all, thank you very much for calling me. I think that's a very kind introduction that Arjun did. But yeah, आज का topic काफी interesting and let's keep the session very very engaging, very informal, trying to understand why product management is important. मैं करता भी क्या हूँ, जितना इन्होंने तारीफ कर दी है, मैं उसके काबिल भी हूँ कि नहीं हूँ. So all of those things, let's just talk about all of those things. And in between, if I switch to Hindi, in between, just bear with me. I just don't have a very good knack of speaking in English. So right. So I'll try my level best. And the topic was very interesting. जो मुझे अर्जुन ने बताया था कि let's do something on this very jargonous term that is used in majority of the startups. That's product market fit. कि what is product market fit? What do you mean by that? So yeah, in order to, even before I start, the whole point was that I wanted to give you some sense of that. What exactly do you mean by problem solving, right? Where does the concept of product management or doing startups actually comes in? And from where does it start in the life of a user journey? I hope I am clear and audible to everyone, right? I just need a yes on the chat. If everyone is aligned, I can just move it forward. Awesome, guys. Thank you very much. So I'll quickly share my screen, right? And let me know if you can see my small presentation that I've quickly, that is there, which writes something that is completely unrelated, which people might feel to the topic that we had, which is product market fit. But then again, I wanted to kind of start it from there and then take it towards, culminate it towards product market fit. So I've talked about something that is very interesting to me, very curious, like what do you mean by mental models, and why I've talked about mental models to build a great PM career, right? So you see a small cartoon on the right side of it, which is the art of product management. Let's see how many features can we cram in the product, right? This is the typical notion कि जितने ज़्यादा feature बनाओगे उतना अच्छा product हो जाएगा. That's how we define a product, right? So first of all, ना सबसे पहले ये बात करते हैं यार कि even before I talk about product management, there's something that I wanted to fundamentally talk about, which is यार ये फर्स्ट प्रिंसिपल जैसी जो चीज होती है ना, जो प्रोडक्ट मैनेजर के साथ बहुत जोड़ रखी है कि फर्स्ट प्रिंसिपल थिंकिंग. व्हाट इज दिस फर्स्ट प्रिंसिपल थिंकिंग, राइट? ये फर्स्ट प्रिंसिपल थिंकिंग आती कहां से, ठीक है? सो इफ वी हैव टू वेरी in a very nutshell define a first principle, it is like the most cellular block of an idea which doesn't change with time, which cannot be broken further, right? It's like the electron, the part of the atom, right? एक इलेक्ट्रॉन को क्वार्क्स में आप तोड़ सकते हो, लेकिन let's assume that's the final building block, right? जिसके नीचे आप नीचे नहीं जा सकते. That's how you start thinking about the first principle. Now, why first principles are important? First principles are certain facts which are like axiomatic to us. Like हम कहते हैं line is straight, right? There is no proof for it, right? अगर हमें करना है तो हमें यूक्लिडियन ज्योमेट्री से बाहर जाना पड़ेगा, and we will have to figure out that why a line is straight, right? That's the first axiom that we look at. That is something that is very core to the job of a PM, and finally to the job from building products towards completion, where we take it towards like building great products. Now, how are these two things related? Like एक छोटा सा first principle है, you need water to stay alive. Even after 100 years in the future in the civilization, humans will still need water to stay alive, right? Or mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, right? Now, another very strong first principle which we develop in using products or building products is the very same fact that a product value for a customer brings happiness, right? Now, how do I define that? Let's assume tomorrow if you have to go from Bombay to Delhi, right? And you have two options, right? And both are by car, for example. One is a bus, second is a Mercedes, right? 99% of the time, if I ask you this question, what will you choose? Traveling by bus from Bombay to Delhi or some other closer place, or by a Mercedes? Give me one or two in the chat. One is Mercedes, second is bus. People can respond in the chat, I think. Obviously, right? This is something that will happen, that people want to travel by a Mercedes. Why? Because it gives you comfort. It gives you value, right? So it also gives, and comfort effectively drives happiness. Now that's the first principle, that anything which is a better solution to the current problem or need that you have, if it's a 10x better solution, it'll bring happiness or comfort in your life. That's the first principle, right? Like a very simple example of it is Swiggy, right? Earlier, you had to go to a restaurant, order food, come back, and it used to take you 3 hours effectively to get the right kind of food that you want to eat. Right now, what do? You open the Swiggy app, click on an order, and it comes to you, right? So that is the first principle I'm talking about. The second first principle is that happiness brings repeat usage, right? Now, let's assume, again, you are using Swiggy and the comparison is going to a restaurant. If 5 times do you want to use the same application, what would you prefer, using Swiggy, or would you prefer actually going to the restaurant and ordering food and looking for things over there, right? So obviously it is going to be the first one, which is Swiggy. So happiness, value brings happiness, and happiness brings repeat usage. Give me a second, guys. Sorry, extremely sorry. Yeah. Now, if we tie these two first principles together, which is value brings happiness, happiness brings repeat usage. You consistently use that solution and again. When you tie these two first principles together, it kind of builds something what we call a mental model. A mental model is an explanation of a thought process of how something works in a real world using a string of first principles. So it basically means value brings repeat usage. And that is something that we product managers effectively talk about. And you must have heard about it, that if the product is valuable, it will have organic retention, but ye yahan se aa raha hai. This is where it's fundamentally coming from, that value brings repeat usage. Now, अब आगे चलते हैं, ठीक है? तो यहां तक आपको समझ में आ गया कि यार कि PM क्या होता है, एक प्रोडक्ट मैनेजर फंडामेंटली, एक मेंटल मॉडल क्या होता है. अब हम इस पे आते हैं कि प्रोडक्ट मैनेजर क्या होता है. सॉरी, आई जस्ट switched it across. You understand now what's a mental model, and then now we have to effectively move towards what are product managers, या what is product management per se. सबसे पहले ना ये समझते हैं कि प्रोडक्ट क्या होता है. ठीक है, प्रोडक्ट, इफ यू कॉल इट इन हिंदी, इट्स कॉल्ड अ वस्तु. Anything that adds value to your life, right? Now, a product manager is someone who effectively takes care of that product, manages that product in such a way that he's able to provide you consistent value with time. Consistent value with time. Now, what is this product? Iska actual thought process kya tha? So the mental model is that any problem that you face, you would effectively need a solution for it, right? Any problem, like if you need food to eat, अब खाना चाहिए आपको खाना खाने के लिए. If you want to travel somewhere, you need a car, you need a bus, you need some vehicle to effectively take you from one place to another. So everything to your problem, to your question, there is a problem, there is a solution to it, right? So basically, if you understand, like if there is anything that is pertaining to which is a need of yours, every individual would want to solve it. The only difference between a PM and typically this particular part is that you as an individual are solving needs, is that PMs typically take those needs and try to solve it at scale. कोशिश करते हैं इसको स्केल पे सॉल्व करें. जैसे मैं एक सिंपल एग्जांपल देता हूं. Tomorrow, if you want to open a travel agency, right? What is a travel agency at the fundamental core, right? It is basically an Excel sheet of supply and demand. Right? On left side, there are people who want cabs, and right side, there are cab holders who have cabs. You marry them together. Now, if I tell Arjun or somebody in the crowd to do it for 100 people, maybe they are smart people, they can do it. For 1,000, they can do it, right? For 10,000, maybe they can still do it. But what if I ask you this question, build the same service for 100 million people? Then it becomes a hard problem. Very, very hard problem, because then it's not just a supply and demand problem. Now, this is where product managers come in. This is where they say that, okay, we will solve a problem for you. We are problem solvers, but we will solve this problem at scale for you. And we will figure out a solution to build that at scale, right? So logically, who are PMs? PMs fundamentally, सबसे पहले ना ये एक jargon है कि कुछ और करते हैं. PMs fundamentally problem solver होते हैं. They are just good problem solvers. Right? And what do you mean by problem solving? Giving 10x more value than the preceding solution. This is very important. 10x better than what? The current experience. They try to build that kind of an experience, and keeping this into account that this experience can be vertically scaled also. कि यार ऐसा नहीं है कि मैं 100 यूजर को ही दे पा रहा हूं या 1000 को दे पा रहा हूं, ये 10,000 के लिए भी होना चाहिए. That is why there's a very common question that I keep telling in interviews, that a halwai is also a problem solver for you. How many of you who is a sweet owner, a halwai? Give me a yes in the chat. Okay, got it. Whatever. So what I'm trying to put across is even a sweet vendor is a problem solver for you. He's a functionally problem. You are going there and asking for a sweet. But why don't you call him a PM? Why don't you call him a sweet owner only? Why don't you call him, you are a product manager? The reason fundamentally for that is that a sweet owner can solve a problem for 100 people, 200 people, 10,000 people in his locality, but he cannot build a system around it which can serve 10 million users when they ideally want to have sweets. So a milk distribution problem at smaller scale is a dukan. What a milk distribution problem at scale is a milk basket, which got sold for $100 million. The same problem. But the only difference is one is not solved at scale, one is solved at scale. So PMs are people who effectively do two things. They solve problems at scale, and they also look at a 10x better solution than the existing solution. This is the fundamental definition of a product manager. कि product manager क्या होता है? वो एक user need ढूंढता है, उस need का solution ढूंढता है, and कोशिश करता है वो solution scalable हो. It is very scalable by nature, so that we can scale it to 100 million users, right? And it is also 10x better than the preceding solution. This is exactly how you define a product. Now, Abhir, the next thing that what I want to discuss about is that what are the skills for you to effectively build a great product as a product manager and then achieve something which we will discuss later in the session called product market fit. Right? What do you mean by product market fit? Now, logically, what happens is any problem that you look in your life, right? How do you identify a problem? I told you that a PM is a problem solver, right? He solves great problems. He actually breaks it down, builds scalable solution. All of that is right. But the first question is, how do you identify a problem? How do you figure out that there is an actual need? Now, this comes from a very, very strong framework, which is a part of even about religion. And if you look at the fundamental thought process is that you identify needs using the virtue of compassion. Karuna se aapko pata chalta hai ki basically if there is a need in the market. What do I mean by that? Let's assume somebody maybe, and it is actually a possibility that a lot of people might have faced the brunt of COVID, right? People in your family, friends who might have been affected in some way, right? Now, assume that you are a person and your best friend is kind of affected by COVID. What's the first thought that comes to your head? Ki yaar, mera dost itna suffer kar raha hai, can't I build a solution for him which solves this problem? Which it can be taking him to building him an oxygen cylinder or doing whatever, right? But some thought comes in your head, can I solve this problem for him? Where did it come from? Because you are attached to that individual in some way. So compassion is the thought that effectively led you to the thought that, okay, there is a problem that I am facing or some of my closed ones are facing. How do I solve it? Now, compassion typically leads you towards curiosity. Like, let's assume you are a pet lover, right? And you like pets. And you see every day in your society, a car is coming and killing pets, right? It is happening. So what is the first thing that will come in your head? Here, okay, can I figure out a solution in some possible way which can pique my curiosity and effectively solve this problem at all? Now, this makes you curious, innately thinking about it. How do I solve it? How do I solve it? Now, the moment you realize this curiosity is there, and the moment you realize the scale of the problem, it translates into a passion. Now, let's assume if I ask you this question, guys, save a pet in your society, right? You see, it is not a problem that is affecting only one or two pets. Every day, maybe there are certain pets in your society who are getting killed by cars. Maybe they don't have food. So what you realize that it's a huge problem. It's not just my society level problem. It's a problem that is afflicting across the nation, across the country. And stray dogs or stray pets are actually a problem which are not getting a solution, that they're not getting the rightful owners, they're not getting right food, and animals are suffering, right? There are two solutions to it. The first solution is you think of a smaller scale solution. Okay, I will tie up with an NGO, we'll figure it out and do something around it. But that's a solution that might help 1,000 pets, 2,000 pets, 5,000 pets, right? The other solution to it is that somebody thought of it, said that there is a supply and demand of pets, right? People who want pets and people who don't have pets, right? And I can bring them on a platform and effectively take these stray dogs and put them on a platform and let them buy them. And that is actually which started Animals, which just recently raised a $40 million round as a startup. They are a pet marketplace, right? And that's what they did. That's an amazing concept that they thought of. And that built a passion. Now this problem that they're solving, it can scale up to millions of people. They built a marketplace. They give you options that what kind of pets do you want? What exactly would you need from them? Is there a service that, and they built and they raised a $37 million series A round. It's that big a market. So the problem is just around you, right? We always talk about these things. Yeah, problem hi khatam ho gayi, sare startup ho gaye, sab kuch ho gaya. Ab kaun si nayi problem hai? There are so many problems that you trivialize in your daily lives. Yeah, yaar, ye to choti si problem hai, but that can scale into a huge problem because people are there. So curiosity leads you towards passion. That is my solution scalable enough that it can actually solve the problem, right? So passion leads you towards the scale of solution, which is the art of critical thinking, right? That how will I make this solution applicable to 1 million users or 10 million users? And that is when you start about scale of thinking. Now, there's a very interesting dichotomy that happens here. A problem which is at a very cellular level is an easy problem to solve. You want food, you go to the kitchen, you ask your mother, and she will give you food, right? But the moment you make it a problem which is affecting 10,000 people, you have to make a community kitchen. You have to get a network of kitchens. You have to get a network of cooks, a supply of food, right? Now, this single variable problem becomes a multivariate problem. You need multiple kitchens, you need food supply, you need people who are cooking it, you need marketing people, you need all of those. So a single variable equation, which is at a very fundamental level, a very simple problem at scale, becomes a multivariate problem. Like, because like Uber is not just a supply and demand problem. Uber has multiple problems. Compliance is an issue, security is an issue, right? Multiple things are there an issue which they have to take care of it, right? Women's safety is an issue, right? Refunds is an issue, right? So this becomes a very complex problem. And that is where, coming back, the concept of mental models comes in. Now, a PM is someone who solves a non-deterministic problem into a deterministic solution, which is understandable, because now at scale problems become ambiguous. So the PM actually looks at a mental model, and mental model is something that doesn't change with time. That if I keep the fundamentals of that mental model as my core, anything I build on top of it will be scalable. Like if I believe that customer service is going to drive retention as a fundamental thought pillar, if I build any features with that thought intact, it will be valuable to the customer, right? So it builds that art of critical thinking. From a thinking standpoint, problems arise when you closely understand the pain point. And that is why you would see that most companies, they are built by entrepreneurs who have actually faced that problem themselves in some way or the other. Like Zomato became that way. Travis Kalanick, Uber started the same way. Travis was in New York, right? And they have actually faced them, and they eventually became their passion. This is a huge problem to solve, and I need to solve it, right? So the first thing that you need to develop as a great problem solver is something called art of compassion, which leads to art of critical thinking. So be compassionate to people. Try to listen to them, right? Try to feel their pain points, that what is happening, and then you will get a lot of problems which can evolve into potential big companies and solutions in the future, right? That's the first thing. Now, the second interesting part that comes from this is that, yaar, ye art of critical thinking to bata diya mujhe, but it develop kaise hota hai? How does it get developed, right? The simple and the difficult answer, the simple yet the difficult answer to this approach is to build something called the art of observation. Art of observation is extremely, and observation doesn't necessarily mean words. Like it can be the body language of the user. Like I'll give you a very simple example. Whenever you book a cab, right? And there is someone you are booking a cab for, and you are effectively bringing him across. If the driver comes late for 5 minutes, what is the typical body language? Yaar, late ho gaya, yaar, ab batana padega mujhe isko ki kahan pe aana hai, where does he come? So logically, your body language also tells a lot about that, whether you're enjoying that solution or you're not, right? So as PMs, we are very, very observant people. We talk less, but which is very counter to what I'm doing right now. But then again, we talk less and we observe more, right? The reason for this is that whenever you are very observant and you're very accessible and compassionate, right? People open up. They tell you their real problems. That's what happens. Like if there is a tutor in IIT Bombay or somewhere in any places, like in my college, a teacher who is very accessible to me, who can relate to me, speaks to me that same tone that I want to speak to, right? It becomes very easy for the student to tell their problems to that particular teacher, that this is my problem, this is where I'm stuck, right? So one very fundamental principle that comes from this art of observation is sometimes the best way to gain control is to give control. Give control to your end user. He feels that he is in control driving the conversation, and he will tell you everything about what the problems are, right? Once you listen to the consumer, right, that why, what problem are you solving, then you closely understand his actual pain points and remove bias from there, and boom, here you build the hypothesis. Like let's assume tomorrow there's a problem that you face in IIT Bombay, and I think this is everywhere in general in engineering colleges, a problem that you need notes, and notes हमेशा एग्जाम से पहले ही चाहिए होते हैं लोगों को, उससे पहले कोई पढ़ाई नहीं करता, उससे पहले ही नोट्स चाहिए होते हैं। और नोट्स के लिए क्या करते हैं, what people do is they go to their seniors, ask for notes, where is it, and there is no closed repository. Now somebody feels that it's a huge problem, right? Because if I could have given a repository of notes to my coming juniors or get it from my seniors in a structured way, I would be effectively able to score well in my examinations. So a very small approach is that if this is actually a need, somebody, किसी ने क्या किया, एक Google Drive ली, सारे notes उसमें डाल दिए, एक WhatsApp group में भेज दिया वो message, and tell them forward this to everyone who needs this. If that is actually getting forwarded, right, that means there is value in the concept. If it's actually happening, right? And that is the simplest possible way. You tested the hypothesis that this was an actual problem and I need to solve it, right? And then if that is organically happening, then you can build a website on top of it. You can build an app on top of it, whatever you want to do it, right? So boom, your art of observation, talking to people, actually led you to a solution where you solved it in a very nimble way. So the first thing is that whenever you get approached by a problem, right, you build a hypothesis around it. A hypothesis is nothing but an if statement. If this is there, if X is there, why would not happen, or why would happen, right? If I have a repository of notes, I will achieve good marks in my examination. So the functional part is X is there, Y would be the outcome of it, right? And the hypothesis can be wrong also. That's not a problem, right? But what I'm trying to put across is if you've closely listened to the consumer, actually felt the need of it, he will give you the right hypothesis. He will give you the right need, right? So that's the first thing that you develop, which is art of critical thinking in order to become a better problem solver or a better thinker. Now, ye baat ho gayi. The first thing that has happened is very clear, that now art of. The second thing that a product manager or a startup owner or an entrepreneur, for that matter, has to develop is called what is called the art of prioritization. Now, why is this important? Like if I ask Arjun today, ki Arjun yaar aisa kar, ki tell me the last 5 years of your life and write me a story around it. He will start writing. He can write 5,000 words around it. Sir, मैं यहाँ पे पढ़ाई कर रहा था, कोटा में मैं इधर पढ़ाई कर रहा था. Then I applied to the IIT exam. Then I got these many marks. Then मेरा IIT में हुआ, लेकिन मुझे पहले year में अच्छा नहीं लगा. I didn't like the classes. Then I started thinking that so he can tell me a huge story around it. But what if I converse the question and ask him, okay, Arjun, tell me your last 5 years, but in 100 words. And that's the constraint that I'm putting across to you. So he'll automatically start filtering out things. He'll start filtering out things because he wants to keep the depth of the message the same, whereas he has to filter out the unnecessary information, right? Now, why is this important? I'll give you a very simple example. Today, most of the products that we see in which we talk all of these terms, product market fit, lean startup, etc., all of these are digital products, right? Majority of the places you don't yourself know the customer. He's coming on a platform which you have built. Now, assume that if you are not able to write a story in 100 words to someone who is actually your interviewer or might be your friend or something, why do you expect the person who doesn't even know you to spend 15 seconds on your text, on your value proposition? Very logical. Like, आज तुम्हें गाड़ी लेनी होती है और तुम जानते हो किसी गाड़ी वाले को, तो वो आ जाते हैं, भैया मैं 10 मिनट में आ जाऊंगा. Why do you expect that a customer coming on Uber doesn't get a car in 10 minutes would come back on the app? He doesn't know you, right? So logically, you have to effectively condense the message in such a way that it's parsable in the next 15, 20, 30 seconds, right? And that is what a skill you have to develop. Another thing, the concept of an elevator pitch. Do you really think the concept of an elevator pitch was because the VC or the investor who is effectively listening to the solution is actually that busy that he cannot give you more than 60 seconds in an elevator? That's actually not the case. The actual scenario is that he wants to see that whether in 60 seconds you can pique his curiosity by giving so much value across that he wants to give you 30 more minutes to talk to you. Because he is making that decision then and there. कि ये मेरे time के worth है कि नहीं है? Is it really worth my time? If he cannot prioritize the information that he has in his head in 60 seconds and give me only that information that's relevant to me, so logically, how will he affect? So this is something that you start doing as part of your life, and also think of from a thinker standpoint. Yeah, your brain is like a limited memory mobile phone. कितनी चीजें याद रखोगे? You only remember those things which are important to you, right? So logically, you have to build a very strong structure of prioritization in your head, because a customer might give you 500 needs, but you have to prioritize them, which are the most valuable ones, right? And one of the best way to start becoming a better person at prioritization is something called a concept called constraint thinking, right? Let me ask you one very interesting question. Where would you be more innovative if I give you 20 lakh rupees to buy a car or build a car for that matter, and 1 crore rupees to build a car, but the only point that is there is that in both the cases, the constraint is that the car has to be of same quality. It's not like the 1 crore car can be 10x better. They have to be of the same quality. Where will be you more innovative? You will come up with jugads in the 20 lakh wala case. You will figure out solutions ki yaar ki main kya kar sakta hu, ki how do I make it a better car of the same quality? Like what did Elon Musk do? There were already supercars who were of the same power, same everything, same value. He effectively used innovation to bring the cost to such a level at 30,000 that a $30,000 or $50,000 Tesla is competing with $1 million car, right? And that is where the innovation was brought. He optimized batteries, he used his engineering skills, did all of those things, right? Prioritized, very simply prioritized, and effectively brought that across. So whenever there are constraints on your life, you always try to innovate. If you're truly passionate about the outcome, you always try to innovate, right? So what I did, like one of the reasons that I started writing on LinkedIn, very simply, most of the people think that I started writing on LinkedIn because it created a brand for me. Yeah, that's an external reason for sure. It does that. But the internal reason was कि उधर 1300 character की limit है sir. उसके आगे मैं नहीं लिख सकता. So whatever I have to think is in that bucket list of 1300 characters. And if I don't position my idea the right way, if I don't make it relevant, if I don't position it in the format that it's easy to consume in 1300 characters, then I would not effectively have any impact, right? And that is how I started building. And slowly initially it was very bad. When I started 15 months back, I used to look at my message and isko main bhi padhunga kya? Isko to main khud nahi padhunga what I have written here. But over time it improved because it's like a mental gym. Slowly it's like when you want to go to a gym, you don't, if I tell Arjun tomorrow that Arjun, if you pay 1 crore rupees, you have the body of Hrithik Roshan tomorrow. Not possible, right? It can't happen, right? The simple way to do it is that you consistently keep practicing again and again, and do it over a period of time. When it becomes a life process of yours, you start thinking the same way, you started doing the same way, right? And that is the same with, it's a mental gym, right? You're doing it every day, and it's more like a tactic that becomes a part of your life. So that's the second thing, the art of prioritization, that if you can prioritize your information, the most limited information would give you the most maximum value, right? That's the second thing. Now, third thing that is very interesting to look at this particular place is something that I've always spoken about, which is called the art of feedback. Now, what is art of feedback, right? Now, why is feedback important? That's the why fundamental question that you should. I can also talk about, yaar, arey main to Steve Jobs hu sir, main jo bana dunga wo sab hit ho jayega. Aise nahi hota, right? Majority of the times it doesn't work like that, right? What really is an important factor here is that since it's a non-deterministic problem, there might be certain variables which you miss. Like, for example, let's assume you are making a medical an app for pregnancies, tracking the pregnancy cycle of women, right? You might have thought that you will build it in based on cycles, based on their health, their medical history, etc. But women also make choices A lot of choices thinking on the lines of what is their mood type right now, whether they're feeling anxious, whether they're feeling happy, right? What are the insertions there? Now you built a solution, but you didn't take into account the design part, the mood part into it. Trust me, women will not use it. They'll not enjoy it. They'll genuinely feel, yeah, it's a very rote app. Why am I using it? I'll rather track it on my calendar. So now this is one variable which you might have missed, right? Which you thought that you were very, very clear in your hypothesis, but you missed that variable. That is why it is very important that whenever you make a product, right, the feedback cycle is extremely, extremely, extremely important, right? And what is the best way effectively to drive more feedback is by being fundamentally accessible, talking to more people, right? Whenever there is something of a product that you make or a solution that you make, you become more accessible. One of the reasons that I typically write on LinkedIn is to get a lot of feedback about my own thought process, my own way of building products, my having most of conversation, like I'm having a conversation with you guys. This is another way of me figuring out that what works and what doesn't work, right? Now, the feedback cycle also has a very strong conundrum, right? Feedback also leads to a problem which is very, very indistinguishable from feedback, and there's a very thin line which is called bias, right? One of the important things is, chalo yaar, ye main galat audience ko ye sawal bol raha hu, lekin how many of you have heard this statement ki IIT jaoge 1 crore rupees kama loge? How many of you have heard that? Right? I think every one of you would have heard that statement somewhere in your life, right? Now, what is this? किसको मिले 1 करोड़? मुझे अभी आज तक नहीं पता चला मुझे कि ये किसको मिल रहे हैं 1 करोड़. ठीक है, बिसाइड्स मैं कंप्यूटर साइंस वाले दोस्तों के अलावा तो किसी को नहीं मिल रहे यार. अगर मैं तो this is something called, which gets developed when enough people repeat the same thing. Now there is something that gets built that's called confirmation bias. Just because 50 people have said it, it's right. No, it is not. Right? Like one of the very simple examples that I keep speaking is, my mother comes to me and she says कि अरे यार ये अंगूठी पहन लो आपका गुस्सा कम हो जाएगा. मैं बोलूंगा यार कि अब there are two approaches to it. The first approach is either you reject it and say कि यार अब क्या बात कर रहे हो यार मम्मी, superstitions, what are you saying? How can a stone take care of my anger? The other approach to it is that, oh wow, I am definitely interested in astrology. Yes, this actually happens. Now both the approaches are wrong for a PM. Both the approaches are bias led. The third approach for a product manager would be to be objective about it and ask for more data, right? किसके लिए काम किया है? क्यों काम किया है? Why do you think it has worked? One reason can be that if you are using a copper instrument, copper has some sort of medicinal properties, right? And it helps you with your health, right? There can be rational reasons around it, right? So product managers stay away from this thought called confirmation bias, and they always take everything as an objective feedback. This is the responsibility of a PM to look objectively at the world, at how it is, not through the lens of a person. So logically, whenever a PM is truly passionate, any feedback that comes to you, you declutter the opinion side of it and only look for objective feedback in it. If somebody says you have shitty content, you actually look at around which are the aspects for which he called it a shitty content and improve that. You don't care about what people say. So you're very objective around that. Now, what worked for me? Merely humor worked for me, right? I write content on humor. People want to enjoy humor. They want to laugh. So they effectively give me a lot of feedback. Like today, I got a feedback that in one of my videos, I've been consistently referring to the gender as he. And I got that feedback that somebody said, "Yaar, yaar, tum gender neutral nahi ho." Jabki mera wo thought hi nahi tha. But then again, that's a feedback. I never could have thought about it, that people look at it that way also, right? I was talking about more passionate about how do you solve stuff. And by design, because I am a male, I shifted towards that connotation, right? This is by design, never intended that, but I got that feedback. Again, it helps me identify corners in the world, how which the world views the world, right? And that is something that and one of the best way to do it is be humorous, right? Because humor makes you accessible. People will talk to you. Like आज भी अगर मैं Byjus में जाके, if I am being this guy कि अरे I'm a principal product manager, I'm this and that, and nobody will speak to me. But if I go to a backend engineer, अरे यार क्या चल रहा है यार, बोलेगा श्रवण यार fix तो लगा दिया लेकिन फट जाएगा ये. Let's take care of it in the next release, right? So it makes you very, now these three things together, the art of critical thinking, the art of prioritization, and the art of feedback, this acts like a typical operating system. Ingestion is art of critical thinking, because you're observing people, getting more information inside, getting more ideas inside. The prioritization bit is the processing part of it, where you prioritize, declutter information, and the feedback is the output part, which also comes back as a loop. Consistently keep doing it to the point that effectively 70% of your audience says that the thing that you've built for us, whatever that solution, service, product, is actually solving our need in a positive way. The moment that happens is the moment when you achieve this jargonous term called product market fit. Product market fit basically means when you have built a solution which effectively solves the need of the market, and 70% of the people in the market actually say that this solution has solved our need, and they would want to use it again and again. Like if you go back to Uber once, I rarely feel that there will be people in the chat कि जब भी Uber नहीं चलती तो वो सोचते हैं कि अरे यार चलो आज तो मैं गाड़ी खुद ढूंढूंगा, आज तो मैं फिगर आउट करूंगा, आज तो मेरे को टाइम मिला है, आज मैं यही करूंगा, आज मैं नीचे जाके ढूंढूंगा कि गाड़ियां कहां चल रही हैं. You don't do that, because it has created a structure of value in your head. Or a more leaner example of it would be IRCTC versus going back to the stations. Whenever you don't get a ticket on IRCTC, how many of you people pick up your bike and actually go 3 hours and go to stand in a station line? Doesn't happen. It has brought a paradigm shift. It has brought a thinking shift that I am getting 10x more value, I would not go there. And that is how it's satisfying the need of the market. So IRCTC is not a bad product, first of all. People think it has a poor UX, etc., etc., etc. But you always compare solution based on their preceding solutions. The preceding solution was you going to the railway station and standing in a line. How many of you do that, right? So this consistently keeps happening again and again, over a loop, and you consistently keep doing it and reach to a point where the market says, yes, we like your solution and it is satisfying maximum of our needs, and we would want to continue using your solution. So that is where you see that people who go on order on Swiggy for first, second, third time, they effectively consistently keep ordering. And that is exactly what a PM does. He makes you habituated to a product which is 10x better, and simultaneously improves on the product based on your feedback, and consistently keeps doing it till he achieves the critical mass where maximum people are talking good things about the product. That is where we achieve. And if you have product market fit, then there is absolutely no problem. Then most of the time, then you have to just put your thoughts on growth. कि यार पैसा डालूंगा और customers को लेके आऊंगा because I've already fixed the product, right? Now, the last part that I would say, and then I would open the conversation for general people to talk about whatever questions they want to ask, is that what we actually got a sense of today is not, I didn't want to talk about the execution part of a PM's life, that what's a sprint, what's agile, how tech is built. You're smart people here, you can figure that out. That's not the point that I came here. The whole point is to give you the skill set to focus on where you can become a better thinker in life. And those skill sets, I've just put it down into the 3 aspects, which is critical thinking, which is prioritize. And these are the 3 aspects which consistently work in a loop that make you a better entrepreneur, better product manager, better any problem solver that you look forward in your life, right? You look at the art of critical thinking and put across your thoughts, and just put it across in such a way that, oh yes, I am looking at the problems, I'm hearing enough problems, I'm getting more ideas and effectively solving them. Then comes the art of prioritization, that how do I put that in a way that minimum effort gives the maximum value to the customer, right? Simple way I told you. If you want to build a design website, if you want to build a product which effectively solves notes for people, you don't have to even make an MVP. You just have to make a Google Drive and share it on WhatsApp and see what's the reaction. That's how you prioritize the simple problem. And then the art of feedback, that you should be receptive to feedback. You should not be biased. You should not be arrogant. So humility, that is where we talk about, like PMs talk about empathy. This is where empathy comes in. Are you capable enough to get criticism also and find value out of it, right? You consistently keep doing these 3 things together, and you would just insanely realize that in the next 3 months, 4 months, you would drastically improve as a thinker. And one of the best ways to have conversations and improve your critical thinking is be vocal about what you learn on social media, on LinkedIn. Get as much feedback on your thinking, get as much feedback on your thoughts, and simultaneously you improve whatever you're building. You're aspiring to be a product manager, you're actually wanting to start up in life, you're actually wanting to help some startup in life, maybe build some startup, or you want to do something, whatever aspiration do you have, you put your thoughts across and ask for feedback. But most of the people have this problem कि उनको लगता है, उनको डर लगता है कि यार लोग कुछ गलत बोल देंगे तो यार मैं क्या करूंगा, मेरी बेइज्जती हो जाएगी. ऐसा नहीं होता, right? If you're very focused on the problem, that I want to become a better thinker and I don't really care about the world, I just want to be better at what I do, you will always think of, like, I'll give you one very simple example. What happened with me was that a lot of people asked me initially that, yeah, you write a lot of humorous stuff on LinkedIn and product management is so serious. Doesn't it take away the vibe that you might not be a very serious PM, or you might be someone just funny, just writing something about, maybe a comedian, not a product manager. So I asked a very simple thought to them that, does funny content stop you whenever you look at? He said, yes. If that funny content has some information which is valuable to you, will you retain that information? He said, yes. Right? And if that information is written, will you use that information? He said, yes. And all three parts you're saying yes to me, then why should I really care about what people are thinking? If you find the people who find it valuable, they will stay, and eventually they're going to stay. It is the same example that tomorrow, if you're good at cooking, right? Do you cook because people say, "Arey yaar, bahut acha khana banaya zara, aapne kya baat hai?" Ya aap isliye banate ho, mujhe acha lagta hai yaar. You like doing it, right? Once you consistently keep doing it, anything, if you're truly passionate about the process, any feedback that you get moves from an opinion stage and becomes a feedback. Right? You are not worried about if people say, आज की डेट में जब लोगों का कोई भी एस्पिरेशन पूरा नहीं होता ना, वो इसलिए होते हैं क्योंकि वो आउटकम ड्रिवन होते हैं, कि the outcome decides their happiness or unhappiness in life. You get a great job, I am happy. You don't get a great job, I'm unhappy. Then you were never truly passionate about the actual job that you wanted to do. Because do you leave starting cooking because somebody says you're cooking bad food? Nope. If you're truly passionate, or do you leave singing just because somebody says that तुम्हारी आवाज अच्छी नहीं है? ऐसा नहीं होता, right? So once you consistently have this process in products also, that my solution might be poor, right? I get feedback, I'll improve it. Do that consistently without thinking a lot about the opinion of people and working on that feedback, you will achieve a great solution in some amount of time. And in that amount of time, you will have so many learnings as a thinker, that what you should focus on, what you should not focus on. And simultaneously, you move to a point in life where you achieve this state, which is product market fit. And then retrospectively, everything makes logical sense. आज की डेट में कि अगर कोई भी बिलियनर बोलता है कि अरे यार ऐसा है, तो अरे यार ये तो बनना ही था. It had to happen because he was gifted. Doesn't work like that, right? They have put an heart and soul into it to apply these three core levers to eventually build a great product and eventually achieve this golden state of product market fit, and then growing their company beyond our scales that we look at. So I leave all of you with these three levers to think about, to effectively improve. And there are some great books that you can leverage. Like one of my favorite books is Leaders Start with Why. Or you can do CS 183. It's a free course on YouTube on entrepreneurship. You can also check out Masters of Scale. So all of these things will effectively let you focus on all of these dynamic aspects of your life. And then trust me, if you consistently keep doing it, after 3 months, you'll definitely come up with some great solution to your problems, to whatever you are thinking about, to whatever you want to achieve, and simultaneously become a better PM. And if you want to be a PM, and simultaneously, if you want to be an entrepreneur, give you the best amount of feedback, the best suggestions to be an entrepreneur. So I think this is where I will leave you with. I think this is where I would kind of open the podium to ask people, if you want to ask any questions, feel free to ask. And thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you, Shravan. Thank you. It was really insightful to, the entire presentation and everything. And it will definitely help all the people here. So if anybody has any questions regarding product management, or, even entrepreneurship, startups, or product market fit, or the entire presentation, or life in general, this guy is the one to talk to. So in the first place.
Yep, I see a raised hand.
Yes, Pranav.
Yep.
Yeah, hi Shravan. I wanted to ask you that when there are a lot of existing competing solutions, how does one differentiate themselves?
See, Pranav, differentiation can happen in two ways, right? The first way that you look at differentiation is, give me a second. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah. So the first way to look at differentiation is that if you see what is fundamentally differentiation, differentiation at a Y level is that whatever product there is, whatever current existing solution is, you build a better solution than that. And that should be visible to the user. There can be two ways to look at it. One, either you make a completely dynamic, different solution, which is very different. Like, let me put it this way. Earlier, before Uber, before the first time, even before taxi services did not exist, right? Or if you look at IRCTC, right? Before, the first way that people used to book tickets was going to the station and actually buying tickets. The second way was there came brokers into the picture who had all their setting with these government system, and they used to do tickets for you. That was a half-baked solution, right? Now, what did IRCTC do? Came towards and built a full-fledged digital solution around it. So the brokerage model kind of went away, right? So differentiation fundamentally means you build a better and a more scalable solution in general. This can happen in two ways. Either you do something like IRCTC, that you build a completely different digital platform which is better in the terms of needs that people want, or there's another way to do it. The another way to do it is that you differentiate your product experience in general. Like, let me put it this way. How many of you, like I ask you, Pranav also, you might be interested in learning languages, right? I don't know which area are you from, but you might be interested in learning a certain language like German, French. Maybe you want to go outside India and you want to learn that language. Now, there are multiple ways to learn that language. All of these competitors of different products, that there can be government organizations, there can be different apps from which you can effectively learn different languages. But what has Duolingo done different? Why is Duolingo a $10 billion company? Duolingo is a company which teaches you languages, by the way. They have made the experience of learning languages look like a game. So you don't just go there for learning a language. You actually enjoy learning a language, right? So socho agar aisa, it's like playing a football game, right? The outcome is to do a goal, right? That's the fundamental, or sabka outcome wahi hai. Lekin what if you enjoy the game so much that you are there in the game, you're learning, you're playing that game just because you enjoy it. So this is how you differentiate your product layer from your service layer. Now there are two layers here. One is product layer, one is service layer. A service layer is the value that I'm giving you, like teaching you a language is a value, right? And think of it like this. Some professor comes to your college and he's a great professor who is from an industry background. He teaches you the same concepts which another professor might teach you who is not from the same background, the same things, right? But his delivery of the content is very different. One person brings a globe, actually shows where drilling is done, where all of these things are done, where engineering is used. The other person is reading from a book. You would definitely enjoy the first one. So the delivery of content is product layer, right? And the service is the same. Both are teaching the same things, right? But the differentiation happened because the service was given in a different way. Why do you think Google Pay, which is a payment app, uses all these gamification tactics? Aise hatao, better luck next time, all of these things. Why do you think they do this? Because they want to make that experience so delightful for you that next time, even if you think of a payment, right, you don't think of any other app. You say, अरे यार बहुत मजा आता है गूगल पे में, कई बार तो कैशबैक भी मिल जाता है, आजकल तो मिलता नहीं है, मेरे को तो वैसे भी कम ही मिले, ठीक है? तो generally that is how you create differentiation. Either you make your product experience that good that even if you have the same service, doesn't matter, or simultaneously either you build a certain service which is 10x better than the preceding service, right? Both are different ways of looking at it, and that is how you build differentiation. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Any other questions, guys?
Any other questions, guys? I guess Sushant here has a question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Sushant.
Hi, sir. So I had a question on what are your opinions on how artists can make a side business as to how they can support their passion and earn a stable income at the same time?
Yeah, I think first of all, you live in the world of social media, right? And you will find an audience. Every voice has an audience nowadays. That's how you put it across. So, right? So if you want to really support your income and think of your passion is not just what's the difference between passion and a hobby, right? You're doing something on a hobby. Hobby is more like you do it, it's not supplementing your core lifestyle. It's not who you are. It's just a thing that you like, right? Passion is something which you are very serious about, right? Like I'm serious about product management. I want to build great products. It's not just I want to speak about it. I actually like the process of building it. So what you effectively do is you effectively reach out to the platform that you are on and try to give value to the users, identify who are your users who would effectively derive value from it, and make content, make valuable things for them to enjoy. Once you keep enjoying, once you put out great content, tailor it to the audience, you can also effectively monetize that audience. Like if you're a great musician, right? Very simple way of doing it is that you can do free concerts online, right? I'm doing a concert, and there can be different platforms. Like if you're an influencer, Instagram influencer, why don't you make reels around it, right? So the point is for you to have a voice. Once you have a voice, you can effectively then do multiple business models on it. You can teach people. That's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is you can actually make those kind of artifacts, design artifacts, which you can sell across as NFTs. There are multiple ways that you can do it. You can monetize a lot of stuff. Like the way I am planning is that going forward, agar main kuch decent kuch kar paya, to swag wali t-shirts bana dunga. And I will sell it across, right, to people, and people can actually relive those kind of memories. So just find the right audience, connect with them, build trust with them, and then effectively start to, but initially give them value. I'm always a very strong proponent of the fact that value should lead to monetization or valuation. It should not be the other way around. Before the customer actually enjoys the value, how can he make a choice? Whenever you buy a car, पहले आप टेस्ट ड्राइव करते हो ना, क्यों करते हो? अगर उसके स्पेक्स पढ़ के ही कार खरीद लेते कि यार यार इतना सीसी इंजन है, इतना ये है, तो फिर you never make decisions like that, right? So whenever value is given to a customer or a user, then he gets connected to you in some way, and then you effectively try to tell them that if you want to get the same skill out of it, why don't you do it? Yeah.
So, thank you. So, till the time you gain that voice, right? Till the time you are able to give that value to your audience,
Yeah.
then managing both aspects, right? Earning an income at the same time honing your craft and constantly working on it. That can be a very troublesome thing for many people.
That is troublesome. But the whole point there is that, see, I am whatever I am, maybe I talk about product, I'm before and foremost a product manager. I build things first, right? And then it comes that teaching that craft to other people. But I'm equally passionate about it. So I figure out structure. That is where the art of privatization comes in, right? Like if I feel that I have put certain constraints on my life, like I cannot wait beyond 11:30, or I cannot stay awake because my body needs rest, right? Because I need to optimize that time. But if you're truly passionate about it, it will not feel like work. It will not feel like work. You'll enjoy it, right? That is the beauty of passion. The point you're truly passionate about it, you will not feel like that it's work. It will just be another part of your life that you're enjoying about. You're getting in the morning, playing your guitar, enjoying the entire process, and then putting the same clip on YouTube. It's as simple as that. But the moment it starts looking like, array, it's another task in my life, then it's going to be a problem for you, because you will have to figure out 2 hours with it. That is where the problem comes. That is where I tell people that if you want to become anything in your life, right, first you have to be passionate. If you're not passionate, then always things will be for you कि यार अब मैंने पैसे दिए हैं, मैं यहाँ पे अब टाइम निकालना पड़ेगा मुझे, फिर ये करना पड़ेगा मुझे. That's how the problem. And you might have seen that in your batchmates, the people who are really passionate about engineering, right? वो अलग मचा रहे हैं, वो लाइफ में अलग चल रहा है उनका, राइट? जो लोग उनको फॉलो कर रहे हैं कि बोल रहे हैं हमें कुछ वैसा करना है, उनके लिए हमेशा लोड है कि यार कि भाई हमसे अच्छा नहीं हो रहा, हमसे अच्छी चीजें नहीं लाई जा रही, हमसे ये अच्छा नहीं हो रहा, we are not able to do all of those things which they are doing. Because the only difference is not that they are not, you are less smarter than they are. The only difference is उनमें शिद्दत है. They have consistent passion. They want to learn about it. Their outcome is the process. That's the depth of the statement. They enjoy the process more. and that is how it will happen with you, man. मैं कहाँ लिखता था यार LinkedIn पे 15 महीने पहले तक. I am a product manager since the last 7 years. लिखना तो मैंने 14 महीने पहले शुरू किया, but I feel I was late, right? And whatever little I've been able to do it, that's it. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the insightful answer.
Yeah. Awesome, guys. I think we are just on time. It was a pleasure talking to you. I think, yes. Yeah.
It was a pleasure having you here, Shravan, right? Product manager from Byjus, the angel investor, the charming product manager from YouTube. Yeah. I personally, yeah. So what I'll do is I'll drop the YouTube link in the chat, and I'll also drop it in the WhatsApp group that Technovation has, right? So a lot of people, as you can see, we in the chat, a lot of people enjoyed this session.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Guys, can we have a photo before? Can I request everyone to kind of have show me your beautiful faces, if that's possible?
Yeah, guys, if possible, you can turn on your camera.
चेहरे तो दिखाई सकते हो यार, इतनी मेहनत की है मैंने, अब चेहरे तो दिखा दो यार. चलो यार, I think we can okay, Arjun, we can take a quick photo and you can share it across.
Yes, just a minute. Yeah, done.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn at any point of time. तफरी करनी है, कुछ भी करना है, reach out to me anytime, always with you. Awesome, guys. Bye-bye. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.